Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Ethics of Victoria 2, number 9B. And we are currently fighting a good portion of the world, only really the UK right now. However, that is proving to be more than enough, as they are basically just destroying our armies. They have destroyed our navy, so let's go ahead and make sure we're actually building up enough ships. We'll stop building steam transports, or really any transports at all, and just focus on a combat fleet for the near future. And I believe something like 2 cruisers per dreadnought is supposed to be good. I don't know if we actually need to get battleships in here, or if dreadnoughts just basically take over the role of battleships. Oh, and that would actually push us a little bit over the max that we would want to build, so let's build a couple less dreadnoughts than that. Hopefully get our production to a decent place. Alright, so that's good. We will probably just build cruisers after that, but we'll wait for now. At any rate, yeah, circumstances are not unfolding favorably for us. We can't retreat into anywhere else in the UK because they'll probably just die. The Belgians won't give us military access. We need access to the Germans more than anything, and they will also not give it. So yeah, our whole invasion army is basically just going to die. We'll retreat them out and just disband them. So yeah, that was a good portion of our military. That was an unfortunately large portion of our military, and that probably marks the point at which this campaign is not going to get any easier for a little while, let's just say. We still have 90,000 troops in Europe. We still have 60,000 troops in Africa. The British might try to land on us. If they do, it'll probably come from India. They usually, as we noticed, keep a large amount of their forces on their home islands, potentially just because they don't transport it out, so we might have to worry about them landing. Well, they have a lot of free landing spots and they can just march from Canada, so we might want to move one of our armies up into the north. Looks like that's not actually a full and complete army, and this one maybe. Once it gets its troops back, we did just defeat a landing over in Florida, so we do have to worry about that. Probably safe from the Pacific, since they don't really have any access, and it's much quicker for them to get to Africa. So we may just pull this force up, and that should be fine there. I don't think we really have to worry about threats from this portion of Africa, and we can't really get there either way. So this part of Africa might be safe. We do still want to keep an army there just in case there are rebellions, so we'll move it kind of in the middle area. Well, we'll keep it on the coast just in case, or near the coast at any rate. And this way we can hopefully respond to threats from any direction, although in the ideal world that won't be necessary. Let's build up our armies though, because we have probably at least 3 groups that we can construct after those losses, which really isn't great. We should be able to construct many, many more. But, you know, we took a lot of losses. That's all I can really say. Obviously, that's not ideal, but we're not in the ideal state at the moment. So I'll just try to build 3 armies. And that will be that. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we can't build any more after that. That's okay. I don't believe we produce any tanks, but I'll try to figure that out in a moment. That's a good thing to get. We can build planes in a few years. So, yeah, right now we're pretty much just going to have to sit back. There's not really any fighting we can do, since, yeah, the UK is just going to take back their territory. We're going to be building some boats. That's actually pretty loud. Where is our navy? We have 3 navies left. One is a bunch of transports, so we'll pull them together. We do have apparently 3 armies, not all of which are fully manned. 4 armies, but this one is only 24 strong, so we'll combine it with this other group. Oh, it looks like they're already in the same place, so that's kind of convenient. Which one was the one with 2 engineers? Okay, well, we'll just merge all three of these armies and get hopefully 2 good armies out of it. Alright. So there we go, 2 full armies. Pretty decent gains out of that. And this army just needs 3 infantry, so we can go ahead and build that up. And it looks like we can build a lot of units up, so that's good. We will just build armies, full armies right now. And we'll worry about filling up that one army afterwards. We can build at least 2 more groups, so that's good, although it's mainly going to be Dixie soldiers, and that's fine. And as always, we are following the basis of 4 infantry, 3 artillery, 1 engineer, and 2 dragoons. The dragoons will eventually try to replace, and actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, we can build a whole new army. The idea of that is basically that we don't want so much in the way of artillery that it ends up getting pushed to the front. Way back when I first started playing this game, I probably would have had the army be 4 artillery or 5 artillery. But what happens is your infantry takes losses and they have to shuffle up and back in from the front. And that can be problematic over time. The British are trying to get us to make peace with them, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to fall for their games. We're just going to build up our navy, probably split off all of our transports, or actually, probably not. We'll wait until we build up a few more boats. And once we have a little bit more in the way of boats, then we'll start taking over these British islands, just so it's slightly less convenient for them to come kill us. Although we will definitely keep our double transports for the amount of soldiers that we're carrying, just to be safe. Oh, and I was wrong. That's a little annoying. Mormon nationalists too. Okay. Well, we'll just take all of these armies over. We may want to lower our militancy, and the best way to do that would be by passing reforms. I believe we have 1 reform left. Yes, free press. But if we free the press, it might embolden the people to rebel. Hopefully these British don't step on any of our forces as they're being created, but it doesn't look like they are, so that's very good. We will run the risk of getting war exhaustion as they take over our core territories. Luckily, it's not a core. Thanks, Confederates, not really appreciating California all that much. Ooh, will we get... Okay, cool. Oh, no, we did take attrition. Alright, this army will turn off automatic rebel suppression, just kind of chill there. I forget if the British managed to get gas attack and gas defense and all that. We'll split these armies up because we don't want to take more attrition than is absolutely necessary, although we already have. And we are forming armies rather quickly, so that is good. Natives need to learn to adapt. Sorry, natives, but you kind of do. And you know what, let's see, we'll put the smallest army in the mountain province and all the larger armies in the surrounding territories, just to kind of encourage them to go for the mountains. And that should give us a little boost to our ability to survive this. Not that we are so close to death. I mean, I do think we can pull this off. Let's see, we're doing well, taxing everybody, that's going pretty swell. Let's go ahead and build 3 groups of infantry so that that army can be complete in a little bit. And you know, it might take some losses in this British occupation, so who's really to say what'll end up being important or significant. Aeronautics, though, we've got that. We're going to switch over and get main armament and other techs to get our Navy build time down, since it's pretty much going to be a massive naval war of attrition. Which reminds me, we've been building up... We need artillery, fuel, and steamer convoys. If we're going to be constantly building, then we should have a constant stockpile, so we're not so reliant on the market. We've done this with our infantry earlier, and it was what? Artillery, steamer convoys, and what was the other one? Fuel. That was it. Cool. So we'll grab all of these. There might be something or other that we need for our infantry. We'll look at the army construction view. Oh, it is artillery, just through and through. And that makes sense that it would slow down the creation of our artillery. Well, alright, the point is we have that on its way now. They're going to San Francisco, which is mediocre. Going to be a little difficult to defend, but not the worst. What does suck is that that slows down our attempt at retaking our territory. Now let's see, let's look. -4 for digging, so that's good. We don't really need to enforce them too quickly. We did already, though, and you'll notice we're taking more. Okay, fun thing is, they probably didn't join on our side, and they did not. Okay, so all of Europe is basically lost. The Italian War is a different war, so we can pull our forces to Italy, maybe even keep them in the Austrian Alps for a moment. We'll give up on holding their capitals. That doesn't give them That does not give them a land route to our African holdings, so they're probably safe for now. Let's see. Well, we'll defend California. I'm not sure. Well, we're going to have to be worried about potential attacks and incursions in various areas. Yeah, the Russians are just swarming in. If we had more forces, we could deal with it actively. Right now, we're just going to have to fall back. We might not even want to risk engaging them in Austria. We should just pull back to Italy, and we'll pull back to the Italian Alps. That way, no matter what happens, basically, if they get military access from Italy, then we're kind of out of luck anyway, but we'll find that out pretty quick. And better to find out in the Alps than way down in Rome, where it's just plains. Alright, so, I mean, we always wanted this to end in a fight, and I suppose, you know, this actually could work out very well. We'll have to play this very slowly, so this will be a prolonged sort of engagement. Nevertheless, that's good. Ooh, we're taking a lot of losses because, of course, they're in the mountains now, and we're actually taking absurd losses. We can't maintain this sort of thing. Alright, so we're going to have to pull out of here. Or, I don't know, we won, so that's good. They're retreating into the US, which is mediocre. Not into the mountains, though, and that's very good. Alright, so we'll try to cut them off, or I guess just interdict them. We're probably going to stop looking at all of these pop-ups saying the Russians took over areas, since they're going to take over all of the European territories we control. We'll go take back Sacramento with this army. We did manage to interdict them, that's very good. You know, this kind of Victoria 2 always makes me want to play Hearts of Iron 3 when it... Oh, God. Okay, you know, and I spent all that time putting troops in New England. Turns out, not the best call. We'll pull this army back as well. We might have to abandon Washington, D.C. Obviously, that's not something I want to do at all. If the Americans get... Oh, they're going back to Sacramento. Alright, well, these other armies, we will break off into two groups and just kind of bring them back over. We'll leave these two armies over in California, since evidently that's... We have to worry about Russian North America. I don't know, let's look, actually. The Russians have 174 ships. So, right, that's a legitimate threat. Okay, so for the near future, we're not going to be able to go on the offensive. Oh, okay, they are attacking us in Washington, which actually might help us because we don't have dig-in bonus. Why not? Okay, well, whatever. Lacking our dig-in bonus, we do still have two armies in the region, so that's as lucky as that circumstance could be. And hopefully this battle will end relatively soon. We'll try to bring these guys around. This is the army that needed more troops, and now it needs even further since that infantry is basically dead. So we'll just build up a new infantry. We won't get rid of that one that's undermanned yet. Oh, this group that had two engineers, and I guess... Well, it needs an infantry and a dragoon now. So we'll get those. We will probably rally this guy over to the rest of the army. as it's being created. Alright, so Austria and the Ottomans are going to start producing troops against us. That's problematic. As long as the Germans don't get into it, though, that's probably still winnable. Looks like that British army was finally destroyed, so we can probably... Well, we'll take this group over to the rally point as well. This group that is fully manned, we will leave in California. We'll just man these mountain passes. And it looks like we might win this battle. Oh, although no, it doesn't. Okay, we can maybe risk just transporting troops. We don't have enough artillery to make a full army. That might not be the most significant point if it's the loss of our capital at stake. Alright, I guess we do have to be very careful of where they're occupying us, and at least click it so we don't end up losing California again. Since we don't really have a navy that's able to interdict anybody, those are all some really Turkish sounding names, so we can probably be fine ignoring that. And hey, look, we were already occupying California with our forces, so that's kind of lucky. Let's go ahead and pass this reform right now, because the last thing we want is for our armies to be constructed and to die ramming into rebel stacks. So yeah, we'll try to avoid that if at all possible. Just retake that, and once we retake that province, then we'll go focus on... Oh, okay, they've brought more troops in. We will also bring more troops in. Let's get these guys in here. We might take a little bit of attrition. Looks like we are not. That is pretty much the best news we could get right now. Merge these armies, disband all undermanned brigades. Oh, and we have more than enough artillery. That is great news. And we'll just get this down to 60,000 troops. Alright, so that was really probably their largest opportunity to smash into our state. What? Oh, okay. So I messed this up a little bit. So 3rd Army needs to get reformed. This army will send over. Alright, do we actually have 6 artillery? It looks like we do. So there we go. 4, 5, 6, 4 dragoons. We're sure about that this time. And we have a ton of extra infantry. That's okay. You know, I'm actually going to move the undermanned dragoons into the reinforcement pile. And really the undermanned every group. And there we go, we're at full 60,000. That is the most combat effective we could hope for at the moment. We'll roll these guys up into the fight. Sacramento is back under our control. Go defeat these Californian nationalists. Loss of a whole bunch of provinces. That's fine though. You know, even if we technically lose, all that'll happen is we'll have to select status quo and we'll lose a little prestige. Now, I don't want to get to that point because, you know, our whole objective is to occupy the whole world. If we start just, you know, backtracking over several nations, then, you know, that's just directly counterproductive. Alright, so we'll send this army in. These armies are still somewhat intact. And that's good. We will have to move a fresh army to maintain the occupation of Washington. Or the, yeah, I guess the occupation's a good way of phrasing that. So we will actually move these wounded units out, since it does not help anybody if they just get stack wiped by a giant American rebel force. Alright, so it looks like we will be able to take back our capital, which they just swooped on that, man. So all of my statements about, oh, they'll probably come here. No, wrong, just outright wrong. Turns out they will go anywhere they think they can, and if you don't have a navy, that's basically the whole thing. Let's see, are we building naval bases everywhere? We are. Do they need any resources that we aren't already stockpiling? If they are, then it's too late to see, which I guess is the same as saying no. I'm glad that we were building these this whole time because I totally dropped the ball on that. Let's look in Africa. We are still building them there too. Cool. Man, I was really on point at the end of the last episode with all of these naval bases. And that's very helpful. Oh, wait a minute. Did that one not build yet? What do they need? Cement. Let's get ourselves a whole ton of cement. That's fertilizer. But that is cement. grab that up as much as we can. Alright, so this is all coming together decently well. That's all falling apart, but, you know, not as quickly as it could be. You know, quicker than I would like. But of course it'd be quicker than I would like. So an issue with our Navy is we're clearly going to need to take this fight over into the old world. We might... Okay, here's the thought. So if we fight the Russians, which we're not really in a position to do at the moment... Okay, so the Russians have a massive army. That there is no doubt about. The British have a massive navy. The Russians also kind of have a massive army, and that's or navy as well, and that's not great. Let's actually get numbers. 440 brigades, 175 ships. 602 brigades and 92 ships. Let's see. They have 25 out of 30 naval techs and 23 out of 30 army techs. The Russians, however, have 20 out of 30 army techs and 11 out of 30 naval techs. They also have the Chinese Empire, a good portion of it at any rate. So it might be the most worthwhile thing to fight in Asia first, although I really don't want to pile our armies into these massive wastes of Siberia, where we would just be going through tons of boreal forests for just millennia until anything is achieved. Which I suppose we may have to do at any rate before this is over. But if we fight in Europe first, in places like Austria and Turkey, we can try to suppress these states from coming back up and becoming relevant powers, which would be positive for us in the sense that, well, it would just be less fighting, you know, less enemies to fight who are ready to do the fighting. We're just going to encourage soldiers and stop encouraging fascists at this point. That wasn't really effective. Alright, so if we fight in Europe, the terrain's not so much on our side. There are a few pockets where we might be able to lead them into attacking us. It risks that they'll get military access through Germany, which we already know that we can't get. If the British get military access, then they could flood the front at any point, and that could provide just a really awful thing that tears us up from behind. So that would be a constant danger we would be facing. On the bright side, it would keep down Austria and the Ottomans, which is fairly significant. It would also give us an opening into Russia proper, and once we manage to just purge our way through Russia, then it would just be the UK on its own, which admittedly was the situation we found ourselves in a little while ago. So yeah, if we move in and take over all of these Russian areas, that doesn't really help. Well, what does it not really help? What is our overall objective? Our overall objective is to, 1, secure our country from all of these various naval invasions. So let's draw up a military plan. What should we call it? I wonder what it was called. I wish I had a browser up right now. When the Greek gods overthrew the Titans. I'm actually going to look that up. I wish I had that on point, because I feel like this is a good analogy, where this tiny little plucky state, we're going to rise up and overthrow the Titans, and hopefully this doesn't make everything lag terribly. Greek gods overthrow Titans. Come on, Google. War of the Titans. Oh, Titomancy. That's pretty cool. Alright, so, new name. Titanomacy. Titanomacy? Titanomacy. Mashi, Titanomacy. Yeah, anyway, it's a cool name. Probably gonna be the name of this episode, if you're watching this in the future, as you must be. Then, yeah, that'll be an interesting moment, hopefully. Alright, so what is our main objective? Well, presumably, people are going to be coming at us from over here, and from over here. And they're going to be constantly doing little attacks, dropping on us all over the place. Really, everywhere in our country is at risk. All of these areas could theoretically be staging grounds for little attacks. Just all up and down the world. So we are a nation under siege. I'll draw some little arrows over here to really maximize that point. Look at these. Alright, so we are a nation under siege. And potentially a nation under blockade. Those are pretty tiny, but they get the point across somewhat. So they're not actually there right now, but they have the potential to be, and we don't really have the ability to defeat these naval vessels if they do come. Over here we do have our own navy, so we might be able to do some little skirmishes and defend our seas, so we will depict that with a little green on one of these dudes. So we can potentially defend our seas somewhat. We'll have to do little raids and interdiction sort of battles. It would really help if we took over these islands so we could get more vision, so that's an argument for doing that. And that is one of the few things we could do realistically in the very near future, is just push the British out of South America. Huh, okay, just a tiny Honduras. So we could push them out of the Americas. That would give us a good view of where they're coming from. I'd probably not have the wherewithal to actually watch. We could probably station up an army over in northern Canada if we're actually able to move into Canada. Whoops, just didn't mean to draw that. Let's see. Oh, cool, we can move into Canada. So what we'll probably do is just build a single random infantry. Or actually maybe even just take a whole army just because, although that's super wasteful. So what we will do now is, yeah, we'll just build an extra infantry. It's not like it matters. We'll build a few. There, 4 extra infantries. They'll take something like, let's see how long. Small arms and canned food. Oh, it takes 90 days to build them. And apparently we need small arms and canned food, so we are going to stockpile those immediately. Oh, we already are. Well. Okay, hopefully that's fine, and we're not actually significantly lacking in those. So we're going to take these groups of infantry, and we're going to really hope that there aren't any British forces just chilling there waiting to kill everybody, which there might be. That's a real possibility. Russian forces too, especially since we can actually just march right over into, you know, Alaska. So we may actually just go march over into Alaska in a moment. We'll go station these troops over in these various provinces, get ourselves a good amount of intel, I suppose, on where these navies are at. Probably keep this dude over in Alaska. Let's see, this new army we will send over into California, send these guys up, and we'll send this guy over into Russian Alaska and just start picking away at that. Get the Russians out of North America, get the British out of Central America, the Caribbean, and the South Atlantic. So that'll be, I guess, stage 1, is just the defense, try not to die, keep our armies in place. We will hold off against enemy attacks in the Italian Alps. If any of these armies get attacked, and that's not really where we're trying to defend or the color that was supposed to be, but we'll just hold out in this little pocket. If they come at us, then the very first thing we're going to do is flee from Rome and get into the Alps, and we'll just try to hold out in all of these alpine mountain passes where hopefully they just won't be able to slaughter everybody. And that's really going to be the high water mark of this, is not having everybody die like they did right there. Alright, so that provides us a short-term to medium-term objective. We still have to defend Africa. We do have a bunch of troops. Whoops, still drawing stuff on accident. Let's see. What am I not doing right? Is this not shift? Is one of these buttons held down wrong? Maybe. Who knows? Whatever. We'll just meet all these units up right here. That's kind of weird that I'm not... Oh, there we go. Drag select. Right, so we'll meet all these units up right there. That'll provide us defense in Middle Africa, in West Africa, and East Africa. South Africa is kind of on its own. We'll clean up all of these areas, get some vision of the general situation, pull this army of anarcho-liberals over into Russian Alaska as well. Guess we'll ally Japan, but, you know, we all know that they're not going to help us. Alright, so now an important step is going to be grabbing one of these armies. And some of them are partially undermanned. That's just gonna be the situation. There's no real solving that, at least not for a while. Bursa, once again, Turkish province. We've done enough of these in Turkish-ish areas, Turkish-ish, that we shouldn't really be... okay, British force. These guys will all unify pretty quickly. We'll bring these guys over as well. Let's see, where's the best place to hide these troops? Probably right where they're already at. It's pretty far, so hopefully the British can't take too much in the meantime. We may want to move our forces into the Mediterranean first of all, and work against the Russians in this theater. What we may be able to do is trap some of their armies on islands. No, that's silly. We'll just destroy them. Alright, well, we'll defend Africa, first off. We may need to defeat the British if we can get enough naval power to actually do so, and we are going to lose. We might lose our construction of a naval base if they manage to attack quickly enough, which they probably will since our forces are scattered across the African continent. Although our forces are really scattered across every continent they're on. Which, you know, not the best. But we'll bring all three of these armies together. Once they're all together, we should be in a decent spot to fight the British incursion. And yeah, we'll just try to keep that up. So if we defeat... Oh, Freetown. Oh, okay. If we defeat the British Navy, then that really closes down their ability to attack us from the Atlantic. They don't really have any more naval bases we could take on the way up. Gibraltar definitely is one that we need to. But then we can try to take over Ireland, maybe the Isle of Man. We need to win the naval battles, though. That's the most significant thing, and that means producing as many ships as quickly as possible. Japan broke their alliance, as we knew they would. All sorts of occupation news. Once again, going so quickly that I'm not really looking at it, which runs the risk of them attacking us in our homeland. Getting these forces up into Canada, so we will be able to get a little bit of vision and just sort of spy on them. Alright, this army is good to go. Unify it. We can't build another army anywhere, so that's okay. We're doing well enough. Alright, so if we are able to defeat the British, that's really the ultimate thing. We have to defeat the British, at least in their home islands. That'll really wreck their industry score and make it harder for them to get resources. Then we'll go back to Italy, probably try to push the Russians out. If we push them out of Austria-Hungary, we can go defend these mountains. We'll kick them out of Istanbul, probably just blockade right there, and then move into Russia proper. We'll let the rest of the Ottoman territories be controlled by the Ottomans for a little while, and we'll just kind of go through the Russian homeland until we can go roll around, bring our navy around, take over the Russian-Chinese Empire, and probably start taking over British India. Once all those areas are seized, hopefully once they lose their mainlands, British India and Russian China will fall to domestic rebels and we won't have to occupy them ourselves. That would be optimal. Then we could turn our ire, I suppose, against the Germans. If we look at migrations, Brazil is still stealing a lot of immigrants. So is Canada, though. So you're going to want to fight the Canadians at some point. Probably once they become a great power is going to be the only opportunity we'll get. Otherwise, we won't be able to declare war on them since they are under the British and we're already fighting the British. In a way, though, that's positive for us because... why is that positive for us? It's positive for us right now because we don't have to fight the Canadians at the moment, and that would be hard. So, yeah, that's essentially the gist of that at the moment. bunch of occupations and things. Eureka. Eureka sounds like a California spot. And it is. Okay. Well, we'll try to defeat that. Oh man, there's a sci-fi a sci-fi TV series that took place in Eureka, California, where all of these smart people supposedly were living in this super secret techno future. So, yeah, thanks Sci-Fi Channel for helping me notice my country was under attack. That's pretty cool. Weird how things in life... Well, I mean, it's not really things in life tying together, it's so this one state, or this one part of this state actually exists. I don't know. I guess it's not that interesting. Just one of those happenstances. It's really interesting, actually. I personally think it is. The argument between, you know, like synchronicity and the whole universe being aligned in... Oh god, they moved away! They moved away. Wow. Okay, cool. Guess we're just losing that mountain. Thanks, Rebel Suppression. That's exactly what I wanted. Alright, so, yeah, not the best. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of maybe an example. Like, I was arguably speaking poorly about synchronicity, and then the universe aligned to make it so that my army abandoned the mountain pass, and thus an effective area to battle. You could, however, make the alternative argument that would just be, no, that's not the universe aligning against you, that's you making an oversight, or, you know, just not getting a full picture. And then the cards just kind of fall down in an interesting way, and human beings being creatures that associate, you know, patterns and stuff with meaning, you know, notice the things that are seemingly patterned. And, you know, there's probably a bit of truth to each angle. I'm not saying, you know... Well, nah, I don't know. I guess no one... It's not like anyone's coming to me for the final statement on, you know, whether or not synchronicity is actually a real thing. But here we go. They actually followed the same path that the British followed. So I guess for whatever reason the AI just loves to go from Sacramento into San Francisco. Which, ow, that's weird. I last weekend actually made that trip from Sacramento to San Francisco. So, hey man, synchronicity. Or something. But I don't know, it's... That is actually, that's pretty weird. Especially just coming up with it right after saying that a couple times. I mean, is it synchronicity? I'm not gonna say that it is, because that's kind of a lot, man. But, I don't know, that was pretty cool. Just making that connection. And you know, that's the fun of it, is even if it's not, you know, the universe speaking to you in some crazy way, which I'm not saying is what I think it is. Even if it's not that, though, then it's still kind of fun. So yeah, synchronicity, guys. It's kind of fun. But yeah, so our armies are doing well. We probably aren't going to win the war one weird battle in California or Africa at a time. Since, for one, the main thing is definitely still going to be we need naval supremacy. We're also probably going to defend the California coastline a little bit better, since they always do seem to be dropping themselves off in Eureka, although if we move our forces back from Eureka, they might just stop dropping off in Eureka. So who's really to say? It might just lead to further attacks in places that I don't recognize as easily. And there's a whole bunch of pop-ups, so we'll turn all of these off. Go retake that one part of America, just so they don't feel like they have hope of rising up anymore, or, well, in the near future. And I feel like the British starting to occupy somewhere is, there they are, problematic. We'll let them do that while we retake control over this area. Hopefully they'll just stick to their own colonies first off. Where are they at? Like 602 brigades, now they're at 572, so we might actually be doing a decent job winning this war just by picking off the random estranged group of British forces. estranged from, I guess, their giant clump in the home islands. Estranged probably was not the right word for that. But, you know, the one random kind of ineffectual British army at a time will hopefully not prove to coalesce into anything, and will hopefully not be replaced. They have a lot of ships rolling over in through Africa. So maybe it's about time that we start our anti-British naval operations. And we'll just clear out Central America, although it doesn't appear to actually be a hotbed of British activity. But we'll still clear it out. That would be good. We really should just give up on all of those areas in Europe, which we already really have. We're not fighting for them, so there's not like we can give up on them any more than we already are. We could just occupy these 5 provinces, and that's most of the Pacific coast just on lockdown. Not all of it, of course, and that, you know, therein lies the devil. The devil. Alright. So, yeah. We'll just occupy the Bahamas, other things, bring this force over to Florida, Albany, all sorts of things. Bring these guys up. And I'm not really too concerned about that British force. They might get reinforced to a considerable degree, and that would be, you know, decently troubling. However, you know, it's more of a long-term concern, at least at this point. We'll hold this army back a little bit, since the last time we held an army kind of back, it still managed to get attacked. Austria is definitely coming back online. They already have an army. Hopefully they'll fight domestic revolts as people determine that communism isn't all that rad. And as long as they keep fighting those domestic battles, well, I don't think it'll topple their state. But if it does, then that would be the most helpful thing we could experience. Worst case, they become a democracy, in which case they're vaguely stable and thus a threat. Best case, they'll become some sort of reactionary dictatorship, which, you know, just is awesome. So, for you aspiring world leaders out there, if you keep places as reactionary dictatorships, they're not really too threatening. Democracies are slightly more threatening, and I guess autocracies potentially, although they may just end up working on taking all the wealth that they can from home. Who's really to say? Alright, so let's bring these armies up. We're not going to directly engage. But we will certainly set it up so that they are tempted. And that's all it takes, you know? Oh, okay, I guess we can cut Oman down to size. We're clearly not going to do that. I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt to go into war with them, but it also wouldn't really help us in any legitimate manner. What's interesting is if we do manage to occupy the whole rest of the world, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of consumer goods we don't actually produce. So it's there's a very real potential. And by the way, I just realized, let's see, who's making airplanes? Germany. Sweet. We will gather as many airplanes as we can. Oh, airplanes and tanks. We'll get as many of these things as we can before we go to war with Germany. And then we'll fight the Germans with German, well, I guess, armored units and things. We'll actually pull this one group back. That way we will be able to use it to immediately defend. And there we go. That actually was totally effective and pretty smart, I will argue. The British, however, did bring in additional forces. This is our entire African military in the battle right now. So hopefully it suffices. And it looks like they're doing okay. -2 to terrain is... well, that's decent. So, yeah. We'll just hold out. All those weird sounding places aren't areas we need to worry about. Our navy is still alive, which is great because I forgot it off the coast. So let's see. Once again, we're never going to pass another another reform again until the fascist revolution allows us to just peel back reform and pretend that it's progress. Our navy will just keep using... oh, cool. I guess the other army did kind of just pile on when I wasn't paying attention. So we really do need to look for this more. On the right side, Alaska is almost under our control, so that's going well. And we're actually pretty close to the end of the hour, which... wow! Okay, so these British forces are... cool. They're just bringing over all of their piles of infantry, which is why they're not doing too well, although they are still slightly combat effective. Which, you know, not optimal, but still better than we could have hoped for, really. And, you know, I would say in instances like this, Victoria 2 is a better war game than Hearts of Iron. Simply because there's just more that could happen. More time can pass, the situation changes, states become powerful on their own without just having to go take over the few good places in the world. Alright, we'll actually run this army up and just get a bigger view of what's going on in the Canadian Straits. Although probably nothing is the real answer to that. Taking over Bermuda would be helpful at some point. We'll go do that now since, you know, hey, now is probably the best time to do it. Oh, crap, and these British are still alive. So let's try to stop that. The month ticked over, so they're more enforced than they were. Let's see how well our army does, if we can get a good view. Okay, so they're still doing well. We are occupying some British territories overseas. Go take Bermuda. I'll just set this as Control Group 1 since we're going to have to look at it all the time. All sorts of places that will matter in the long run but don't matter at the moment. Dutch Harbor? I think that was our occupation finishing. Okay, good. We'll bring this force down to Southern California, and they'll just maintain the defense right there. I'm not sure why we're not producing armies for the rest of this. Probably because we put all of our wounded groups in there. So we need 2 artillery and 1 infantry, which we can almost certainly produce. 2 artillery, 1 infantry, and that's good enough. We'll actually just build a whole new army, and we'll be left over with the same sort of incomplete force as we were before. But that's fine, because we'll just keep doing that over and over again until we get a full army. We will also build a half army, I guess, in our African areas. Get all the dragoons necessary. We'll just get 2 artillery and 3 infantry, and that'll be a good half army, and hopefully we'll be able to build 2 new groups at some point. Some of our African forces are undermanned. That's fine. We'll just deal with that when it becomes more significant. Which, you know, it has the threat of, you know, becoming more significant very rapidly. Alright, on the bright side, we're retaking all those areas, so we are managing the defense of Africa, we're managing the defense of our homeland. The British only have 541 brigades, the Russians still have as many as they had before. Our navy is getting more and more powerful with every passing little while. We don't really need to look at army construction anymore since it's not terribly relevant, and pretty soon we will have lost all of the territories in Europe that we can easily lose. We can construct airplanes, so hopefully we actually have a stockpile of those. And we may want to swap out all of our dragoons for airplanes in the near future, as that will really aid our forces. So what we might do... well, we might just cancel production of all of these armies. And what did we need? We needed 2 artillery and an infantry. Is that correct? I have no idea. It feels like it would be the other way. But I think that because it feels like the other way, yes, we were actually right. Cool. Okay, so we'll let this tick over for a day. And now all of this is going to be airplanes. We'll start in North America, bring it over into Africa, and we only have 3 armies there, so we only need 3 groups of airplanes. And those are just much better recon units than cavalry, as makes sense. Cavalry kind of falls off in war, typically. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty good. And yeah, so Austria's going to be popping back up. Turkey's already been popped back up. Won the Battle of Bermuda. So hopefully by the end of this episode we'll have cleared out the British Concord. Okay, so they did land up there. Kind of anticipated that. We'll bring a small combat navy up just to interdict future efforts on their part. And then we'll just bring these forces around. And we might not really be able to interdict them, but once they drop off their troops, we should be able to go just smash into them, and hopefully that'll always be small enough forces that we're able to win, or at least hold them off until the rest of our navy can regroup. Land on Jamaica. Alright, so that'll be good. Really doesn't help that we can't set up a notification for when they get into the vague area. Although I can see how that would be, oh, just so tedious if we got notifications every time an enemy force got, you know, within vision range. Alright, well, at any rate, places like Zadar, Fiume, Lervo, Split. Okay, the Italians weren't as successful as I was worried about. Alright, so yeah, we'll just chill. Oh my god, these automatic rebel suppression units. They need to chill out with that for the rest of time. This unit will rush over vaguely towards the capital. We're probably going to have to deal with domestic revolts, which means we're going to have to deal with putting our units back onto automatic rebel suppression mode. We'll try not to mess it up too terribly. Although, you know, things can happen. Alright. Navy build time dropping considerably. Supply range would be good. Organization is definitely a must. We don't really need any other things right now. The British are trying to retake their islands. Let's try to smash that navy. Yeah, cool. Did it. Sacramento. Oh my god, how? Where? Did they run all the way around? What? Does it touch the sea? You can land in Sacramento from the ocean? Okay, well, cool. We surround them, so we'll just hold out basically everywhere else, and they'll be tempted into attacking us, and then we'll destroy them. So yeah, California is just going to be the deathbed of the Russian Empire, one ill-thought-out invasion at a time. And let's go pluck these armies up from Jamaica, go land against that British force. I will say Hearts of Iron is a better game in the sense that they do give you a notification when someone begins to start landing on your islands and stuff. Oh, so we do get a -1, which is pretty cool. In EU4, I believe it's -2 for this sort of nonsense that we're doing right now, just landing on someone else's island. And pretty soon we're going to lose Sacramento, so hopefully they'll do something dumb. And there it goes. Let's take a look. They are attacking Eureka, so that's cool. Not following the old tried and true. And of course they're in. We won the battle of the Turks and Caicos Islands. So let's go land on the Cayman Islands. We'll let the rich become more socialist since there aren't very many of them. Did we lose some sort of falls area? Oh, we took it over from the American rebels. Oh, and they've spread a little bit. They're not in a forest, and that's really good enough. So we'll go smash that force and hope to get there soon enough that they're not too dug in. These guys are still alive and retreating. So we will probably just pull our defenses back into the mountains. Over here, we'll just go to the high ground and rush. Seems like this portion of Africa that's super close to India is not actually the one being constantly attacked. So, you know, there we go for my preconceived notions. Oh, Mormon nationalists. Fairly inconvenient lot. Go ahead and turn on rebel suppression. Clean that up. We did win that battle just tremendously, which is great news because I wasn't looking at it and we could have just as easily lost all of our units. That's just a 3-stack, so it'll die pretty quick. And then we'll bring this army over to, probably not Richmond, because if fascists rise up, we don't want them to just die, but we do want to have a defense. Looks like our airplanes are being finished right at the moment. Alright, the Russian army is destroyed. We'll go pull this army, I guess, anywhere. Doesn't really matter all that much, since apparently it doesn't matter if they are defending California. It'll still get attacked. Eureka is now a core, which means we'll get war exhaustion at a higher rate if it's occupied, so we're going to chill there. Try not to let that happen. Are these guys landing? Come on, do your thing. Oh, Freetown is lost. Bow is being taken. Our armies are getting more and more in position. Got to get more of our people to be fascists. Alright, we have a few groups of infantry pulling up. Bring them over. Oh no, these aren't infantry, of course. They are our airplanes. So we'll bring them over to where all the rest of our army is already going to be built up. Turn off automatic rebel suppression, since that's just going to be death. Occupation of Concord. Go us. Oh, and we lost a battle. That means the rebels did that one thing we were hoping they would never do, which is defeat one of our newly created units. Luckily, it wasn't destroyed, so that's very good. And we'll probably just park it in one of the other armies, because they actually do need it. Huh. I guess we'll allow people to be super liberal in Parliament. Not that it matters, since we're not passing any of their reforms, basically no matter what. And we'll bring these armies up. I believe we should be taking over this island by now. Yeah, it's almost done. Then we'll go land in Belize. You know, I'm actually tempted. We're just going to split the army, or the navy, into two groups. We will send the one without a leader to go pluck these guys up, and the one with a leader to go pluck these guys up from Bermuda. Oh. Well, we're not going to be able to intercept them in time. Oh, but it's all transports. Oh, well. Alright, we'll park these guys all around. Let's see, we'll actually give up the American capital for a moment. We'll pull this guy in from New England to retake it. Get our naval organization up as much as we can, as that's going to be the make or break element. Are you guys not landing? Go on. Cool, and now there's a admiral. Alright, and we have control over these important areas, namely the capital. And they are funneling into us. We'll just go destroy them. Looks like the British attacked us and lost, so that's very good. And they're going to just go reinforce into that. Oh, no, they're not. Well, we're going to just go smash into them, since they're going to lose whatever dig-in they had when those other troops arrive, and they did. These guys can just chill there. And we have more than enough forces, so that is a victory waiting to happen. All of these aircraft can go meet up, chill out for a bit. Russian forces destroyed. We are taking almost certainly a little bit of war exhaustion by having some of our territories under their control, and whenever they come and blockade us on the way in. So that'll make our future wars take longer to justify, which is very problematic. It means we probably won't be able to justify against places like Brazil, which we probably should just justify against right now. See, 813 days. Well, we can get away with humiliating them, so we'll start that. And, so yeah, we'll try to humiliate Brazil. In the most ideal world, what will happen is we will get that, we will occupy Brazil. That also does help bridge the gap to Africa in case we don't win the naval war, although I am hoping that we will do that in the near future. Let's go block these guys off. They look to all be going to Freetown, so we'll just meet and destroy them there. Now it looks like they are just bringing more and more forces over from time to time. Go get rid of these two dragoons, which were all both undermanned. Oh, you know, we can block off their retreat by just parking these guys in the various provinces. So that works out pretty well in its own way. Alright, and they do seem to be giving up our naval superiority, or they're giving up to our naval superiority, I'll say, in the Bahamas and the General Caribbean. I believe the French call it the Antilles, and probably other people too. Alright, and there we go, managed to defeat those groups. We'll bring this guy back, unite with these dudes, and bring these dudes over, and that'll be pretty good. All these dragoons can go away, and that'll be very nice that the African army is the first to modernize, since it really has been the most utilized army so far. Probably have our forces group up somewhere more central in Africa. Yeah, we'll just build more airplanes in North America. Alright, all these forces are united. Disband all their dragoons. Let's take forward a day or so, build a bunch of airplanes in North America, and that'll help immensely. So it does seem like the British are keen on dropping their forces over in the Liberian area, also over there. We will pull our forces back out of where they can see, and just kind of hold out in the local area. Alright, so we are at an hour. We aren't moving very far forward at this point, just in a sort of... What is this army doing? Oh, that's Denmark. Cool. Belize is under our control, so technically we did fulfill our objective of kicking them entirely out of our continent. Not really of doing anywhere else. Looks like the Turks are getting their legs again. The Austrians only have 10 brigades. The Turks also only have 10 brigades. So it's not like they're threats right now, although it seems like it may very well become that way. Tripolitanian nationalists will let them do their thing. Alright. We've been detected against Brazil, that's fine. Once we defeat all of these guys, the British and the Russians, it doesn't really matter once that happens if people start declaring war on us. Oh, there are the anarcho-liberals. Luckily not the army. If the army revolts, we're in really dire straits. And, you know, they might. They haven't yet, but they might. But they haven't yet. So, we do still have that. Alright, and we'll just have everybody fight these rebels. So yeah, that'll hopefully take care of itself to a degree. And we'll come back and just sort of deal with the repercussions of this as they unfold. We will unify these two armies before we do anything, switching out their dragoons. You know, we'll just do that now, since I'll forget if we come back to it. Alright. Get rid of these dragoons. Send these guys a rebel hunting. Alright, so it's not like it's a really threatening revolt. Happily not happening anywhere except right there in Africa, which is still significant enough to be annoying, but not enough to be a threat. British seem to be dropping off more troops. They look to be going over here. So we will rally our forces over in this direction, and that's vaguely helpful for us in the sense that it's, you know, on the route over to Transvaal. We will also build a new army in Africa, just a little small thing, with the express purpose of using it to just smash all the rebellions wherever they come up. Alright, so that should be able to deal with all of the issues that pertain to it. Okay, once we clear this area out, which will probably happen in the first 10 or so minutes of the next episode, then we will focus on controlling the seas around Africa, hopefully smashing these naval units pretty quickly. They might give up and go back to the Americas, which is potentially quite problematic. Hopefully we get a fascist revolt before our armies all rebel. Otherwise we're going to have a really, how do I say? The situation could degrade rapidly otherwise. And yeah, so once we take over the naval situation, we can probably deal with the British Isles, and then we'll go take on the Old World, clean that up. Yeah, once we've managed to get enough troops over here, we'll probably move our navy down here, because that'll probably be the next naval battle of significance. Well, I don't know. That all is in the future. We'll determine that in the next episode. For right now, though, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. We are you know, we're at war. We're doing all right. We have plans. We're fighting domestically. Well, all of this is just summary, and you've spent the last hour watching it, so you don't need any of that. Well, this campaign is definitely going to slow down considerably, chronologically. So it'll probably be the last one going on. I suspect the Pragmatic America is basically at the end. I'll try to see if there's anything I can do to make it more successful industriously so it can maybe become the #1 great power in the world. We're going to still try. We're going out swinging. At this rate, if we do 2 years in an hour in an episode, then we still have 18 years left. That could be 9 more episodes of this, which is more than enough time for us to defeat the whole world, potentially. Hopefully it's not going to be like that. Maybe it'll be 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 more episodes like this to take over the whole world. That really depends on the amount of resistance and the amount of troops that we're able to produce. So yeah, that all remains in the air. The good the good Confederacy, that'll be an interesting beast. I'm actually having a little bit of fun designing its industry, so join me for that next time. Thanks. Have a great day. And then we might just skip the Pragmatic US for a little bit to catch up, or not. I haven't decided yet. We have time. Later.